Good afternoon, good people of the snow. This is Ben Vandenbos from the Sawtooth Avalanche Center with your weekend update for March 5th, 2021. A reminder for you, this is not meant to replace the forecast, it's meant as a supplement for it. We strongly encourage you to read the forecast for the zone that you're headed into before you head out each morning. Well, this weekend, this week, if you were ready for a beach vacation, I think that you got it this week. We saw a lot of clear skies and plenty of sunshine. Hopefully, you didn't forget your sunscreen any day. I know that I did at least once. Here's a look at temperatures over the course of the week. So this is 7 days for the bench weather station in the Sawtooth up top, for Galena Summit in the middle there, and Lower Soldier over in the Soldier Mountains. And as you can see, we had a warming trend throughout the week. Clear skies basically every day, a few passing bounds of clouds, but basically clear every day. And today at bench, we pushed up to near 50. At Galena Summit, it's 45 degrees. Lower Soldier, it's 42 degrees. So it's been pretty hot. And this is the first real warm-up that we've seen so far this season. What we saw as a result of that was not terribly unpredictable. Up in the Sawtooth, where the snowpack is thicker and stronger, we saw a lot of surficial loose issues. You can see a wet loose slide coming from steep rocky terrain on the right there, and a big old chunk of cornice that came down on the left and didn't trigger anything as it descended. Those warm days kind of help those big cornices to sag a little bit, and they get pulled down under their own weight as through the heat of the day, and eventually they come capping off the ridges. As we traveled south, where the snowpack is a little bit thinner and our persistent weak layers are nearer to the surface, we saw quite a bit of wet loose activity, and we also saw some slab activity. And that photo on the left that was submitted to us, that's up near Gladiator. You can see a red crown drawn in. Looks like a thin crown that was maybe triggered by a wet loose from above. And on the right, that's in the Boulder Mountains on Easley Peak. And you see a similar situation. Wet loose avalanches dribbling down through those steep, warm, rocky areas, hitting that slope below and triggering a slab avalanche. In addition to these avalanche problems, we also saw the snowpack start to go through its first phase of transition to a spring snowpack. And I say first phase because particularly up high, this really is only happening in the upper small portion of the snowpack. But what happens when we get these sustained warming temperatures and sustained periods of sun without snowfall, the snowpack settles. These are those same 3 weather stations, and you can see over the course of the week, we've lost anywhere from 8 to almost 10 inches of snow. And that's not snow that we're losing, it's just settling and squashing down. So maybe if you were out on Galena Summit, you may have seen some tracks that had been buried earlier become visible again because of that settlement. Heading into the weekend, we're going to see a change in the weather, which for me, I got to say I'm pretty happy about that. It can only take so much sun at this time of year. We've got a small storm on tap for tomorrow. It's going to bring not very much snow during the day, maybe 1 to 2 inches at most, maybe 3 inches in real favored places, and probably a good bit of wind along with that. Wind's blowing out of the south. As far as how that's going to affect the avalanche hazard, I drew up some simple figures here to kind of talk to you a little bit about surface conditions, about melting, and about what periods of extended sun do to the snowpack. So here we are standing on the snowpack. We're the little man there, or the little woman, and we can see the sun up in the right-hand corner there, and we're getting shortwave radiation that's coming in. That radiation is melting the snow surface, and it's warming us up. It's warming everything up that it touches. On clear nights, the long-wave radiation, which is heat, sensible heat, is easily radiated out of the snowpack back into the sky. There isn't anything to block that radiation output. So, if you've been skiing for sometime over this past week and maybe you were out, not even when the sun had gone down, but the sun had just left the slope you were on, you probably noticed that crusts formed quite rapidly. And that's a result of that long wave radiation being kicked out of the snowpack. However, when we have cloudy conditions, that radiation just bounces around between the clouds. It goes up into the clouds and gets re-radiated back into the snowpack. The end result of that is the snowpack cools a lot slower. It's hard to say when exactly these clouds are going to come in. Sometime overnight, it looks like. If they come in early, we may see temperatures stay quite warm overnight, and maybe that will have us seeing more continued wet loose problems and wet snow problems tomorrow, Saturday. However, if it goes completely clear all night long and the snowpack's able to radiate out all its heat, and then the clouds come in the morning and we don't see much solar radiation coming into the snow, we're going to see the snowpack cooling down significantly, and probably an end to wet loose and wet snow problems. The other thing to keep in mind with that is during these droughts, during these extended periods where it doesn't snow, these are when we often build these more widespread weak layers or interfaces. Sometimes they're not weak and sometimes they are. Depending on how the next 12 to 24 hours of weather go, we'll be finding out if we're building something that, you know, the snow really isn't going to bond well to, or maybe something that it will bond a bit better to. So we'll be paying attention to that over the next couple of days, over the next week as well. Looks like we're seeing snowfall return to the area again on Monday. And so that's what we've got for you today. Hope that helps. As always, if you got any comments or questions, feel free to contact us at info@sawtoothavalanche.com. Let us know what you're seeing out there. Sending us your observations is always super helpful for us. Makes our job not only easier, but allows us to provide a more accurate forecast for you and everybody traveling in the backcountry. So give Chris's forecast a read in the morning and have a great weekend.